Noxcrew! Hey, welcome back everyone, it's Avondale here again with Niall, who's the blue help bot over there. He's flying out of the contestants tunnel, and we are at the Noxgames. And the way we are going to do this today is we're going to talk about the games that we liked and thought went well first, and then we're going to double back on the games that we had some issues with and talk about those last.
Yeah.
And Niall was actually sort of the mastermind behind a lot of the Noxgames stuff that happened, so he's going to do a majority of the talking.
Yeah, so I was the guy that built the sheep game as well, and I will explain all of that in time, don't worry. But first of all, a little bit of history on the Noxgames. This was originally planned in episode 2, and we're not even going to show you the shambles of the game that was built in episode 2, but essentially it was kind of designed like an athletics field, like with a track running around the outside and an archery range and a Spleef arena for some strange reason. And it wasn't very good. I think it's safe to say it was just really, really badly designed, and when it came to episode 4 we still hadn't changed it, but we still had it on the lineup, such to the extent that we were so worried that we'd actually have to show it off and play it, that a little behind the scenes tip, in the last decision dome for episode 4, Noxite made himself invisible and stood in front of that section right next to the chickens so that he prevented any of the chickens from going into that section, because we were happy with any of the other games getting randomly selected, but we really did not want to play that version of the Noxgames. Anyway, after episode 4, I said to myself, we don't want to have to put ourselves through that, we need to change that game. And I really loved, I mean, some people were just talking about taking it out, but I really love this stadium. I mean, look at it. It is a fantastic build, and we built this in episode 2. You could have seen this in episode 2. It's fantastic. Anyway, I spent a lot of time just kind of figuring out exactly what I wanted to do with an empty shell of a stadium. And unlike the previous game, I thought I've always wanted to do like a knockout tournament where we get 5 mini-games, 5 really small, short, succinct games, and we play them in sequence and we knock one person out every single time. I thought that's something that we hadn't done before, and considering how you've got Olympics that have got all these different events, it's a great way to kind of put it into a context that's understandable and believable, not just like, oh, we're knocking this person out, then we're knocking this person out. It's like saying, you've got to perform in each event, otherwise you don't get through. So, I installed these massive not rings that have really no semblance to anything whatsoever, and if anybody suggests that, well, we're not liable for copyright, so shut up. And then we use those platforms to build games on top of them. What you didn't see is you never saw the sheer amount of games that we tested and didn't like, and that never made it to the episode. Like, we test so many different games and we never put them into the game show. We had to figure out 5 different mini games to put in this, which was like a whole nother, it was like designing an entire episode of the game show all over again, and even up to the last week we were still changing things. It wasn't a shambles, it was just something that we really wanted to get right. Luckily, Spleef's pretty easy to get right. First game that we designed, and it was the one that I wanted to play first, for the simple reason that it was a PvP game. It was, you had the 3 people versing 3 other people. We couldn't put it in any other section. We couldn't put it in 2v2 because there was a chance that it might be 1v3, so we couldn't put it in the 4-player, we couldn't put it in any of the odd number players, and it would be a bit boring if we just had 1 person versus 1 person. So this was the only spot we could really put it in. And you know, it's Spleef. It's very nicely designed. Just as a design point, never build floating platforms by themselves. Always have something that they're connected to, so you've got some sort of structure. Like these little mini floating platforms, they're close enough to the center one that it doesn't matter much, but you know, never build anything that's kind of just floating in the sky. Always have it connect to something and have it exist in the physical realm. Anyway, that's Spleef, and Is there any redstone you want to talk about in Spleef?
There's redstone for all these games, but it's certainly not that important. One thing I did want to mention, though, is PvP was on intentionally. They were allowed to smack each other around, and they were allowed to hit each other with the snowballs that they were digging out of the snow, and for some reason, the contestants didn't think to use that, and it really surprised us. However, this game, I wish we had a recording of the tech channel from TeamSpeak, because you should have heard us screaming at just how tense it was. Everyone in the episode was just really... they really wanted to see a good game, and the games were so tight, and everyone was so just invested in the results, and it really made for an interesting way to watch it, just being behind the scenes while this was all happening.
Now, one thing that you will notice is with these, we deliberately put, we made these levels really high in order for the light levels to be at camera okay levels when we were playing the game. Another design feature of this Spleef was we put leaf blocks in, not only for the pattern design to break it up, because you never just want a flat surface in any Minecraft build, always break it up somehow, but we also use that to give a little bit, let a little bit more light through with the translucency of the leaf blocks. Not by much, but you know. Anyway, we'll come back to the horse game, but I just wanted to talk about the mini Minecraft survival. This one went through several iterations. The initial game was game where you had to dig through dirt and gravel, and we didn't like that, so we changed that, and then we got to this. Initially it was just a free-for-all on the tower, but we discovered after a while that you could interfere with each other too much, so we separated off with glass blocks, and we wrote a plugin that meant that you couldn't break glass. Initially these half slabs on the top of the glass walls were actually just like flat across and straight, but we angled them down to allow room for the cameras and also to make it look nicer. Outside of that, like, it's pretty straightforward. You know what this is. Break the obsidian block at the top, there's ores all the way up through the entire tower. It's really just a straightforward build, and it's nothing amazing or special, but it was one of those games that we couldn't criticize. There was no way that we could pull it apart. It did just... It worked well enough.
I did have one criticism for it, actually, and I'm going to take off my game show resource pack right now to show my criticism. And the criticism for this was that people don't generally play in Jollycraft very often, and everything looks very different in Jollycraft than it does in the real texture pack, and that turned out to be, I think, one of the things that helped decide the game. People didn't realize that this was stone and cobblestone building here. The iron ore and the coal ore and the diamond ore were all pretty obvious because they knew they were looking for those, but I think that sort of made it difficult, was just the varied textures. And so I think if we were to approach something similar to this again, where we used people's knowledge of vanilla Minecraft, I think we would either try to label it better or maybe give a demo at the beginning, like a little display that says this is what diamond ore looks like, this is what iron ore looks like, so that way people wouldn't be as shocked by the texture pack when they're trying to compete in the middle of the game.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the texture pack, because we did have this problem very, very mildly in Space Race as well. And I think, like, we came under some criticism for using Jollycraft, but the reason that we use it is because it works very well when you actually take a step back and you look at builds as a whole. It's a very nice and colourful like overview. I would agree that Jollycraft looks a lot better from the camera's perspective than it does from your first person perspective. Yeah, so like I can understand, like, people were saying, Captain Sparkles, why are you using this texture pack? It doesn't look very nice. We get that. Like, up close it's not as attractive, but for the purposes of the game show, for the purposes of filming, this is what we did.
Right.
Okay, so let's move on to the lever game now. Now, this is probably my favourite game out of the 5 of them, and also it's the only one I didn't design, which makes me feel a little bit bad, but Epic Landlord managed to ninja in before I could think of a good final game, and the one he designed was just so so well thought of and so well constructed that there was no way I was going to say no. So this is really simple. It's a showdown to end all showdowns. You've got two teams facing off against each other, bringing back all the contestants. It's a great way to end the series, and yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better final game. It's super simple. There are command blocks behind the levers. I mean, Avon, you did all this, didn't you?
I did. Command blocks hidden, and all they do is they place a redstone block down below, and that does a few things. It deletes these levers here, and it also controls the logic that checks who won the game, which is right here. And actually, when I built this, I wasn't entirely sure we were going to need it, but then, as I'm sure you guys saw in the episode, it was really lucky that we had it, because this was probably the closest finish we've ever seen to a game in the entire game show history. And I honestly don't think the episode did it justice at all. If you watched it on the episode, it was shown in slow motion, but seeing it live, honestly, it was so close. We couldn't even tell until Job told us in chat who won. Like, that was where we had to look down at as they were running towards those last sets of levers. We knew it was going to be that close, and oh my, what an ending.
Yeah, so I was sitting in the chat with the blue team, as I do every game when I'm the blue helper bot, and it was just so close. And right at the very end, they started to get confused, because they knew that who was the last team member? Was it Brotato or was it Deadlocks?
I think it was Brotato and RPM that were down there, if I remember correctly.
So the blue team knew that Brotato was coming up first, so they knew that they had to hit him off. Of course, the yellow team also knew Brotato was coming up first, so they knew that they had to prevent the blue team from hitting him off. And I thought the yellow team did legitimately deserve to win, after Sky actually thought the best idea was just to hit the blue team to prevent them from doing any sort of interference, giving Munching Brotato the clear advantage. So I thought that was a brilliant move of them. There's backing music. Backing music. Please don't use that.